Chemical imbalance, thyroid problems. Have you heard these from people who have heard them from their doctors? And I'm not a doctor, and I'm not here to tell you that people don't have chemical imbalances or thyroid problems. These things are true, I believe, but I could be wrong. As I said, I'm not a doctor. But how many times do people use this, or doctors use this to prescribe medicines or as an excuse to take medicines, which possibly, I'm just saying possibly, I'm not telling you to get off your medicine. I've taken medicines in my life. I'm not anti-medicine. I'm not anti-doctor. I am for health. That's what I'm for, is for health. For a long, good life, and it's hard to enjoy your life unless you're healthy. I never thought about that. One time I was going through one of my divorces. I've been divorced more than once, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, because I learned so much from all that I wouldn't trade it for anything. Okay, and my mom said when I was sitting there pissing and moaning about the problems and the lawyers and the custody and all that crap that you go through, she said, well, at least you got your health. And I thought, what does that mean? Because I always had health, I didn't think much of that. Well, it wasn't shortly after that, a couple of years, because this divorce and custody lasted for like 7 years, and I lost everything, and eventually I lost my health. I got what's called a reactive arthritis. I had eaten some food from a certain store, I won't say which one, and I got what they call Shigella. It was like a food poisoning type thing, and it caused a reaction, and I got this like rheumatoid arthritis. Well, of course, I went to the doctor, and they diagnosed me with rheumatoid arthritis, which it wasn't, but it has the same symptoms. I could hardly walk. I had to take Oxycontin and Vicodin just to be able to move around because the pain and swelling was so bad. Now, and there's what usually happens when you go to the doctor. She never asked me what was going on in my life, what I ate, how I took care of myself, did I exercise, nothing. And that's what most doctors do. They don't take the time to talk to you and find out what's going on in your life, what has been going on in your life. They just ask you about the symptoms. And the symptoms are not the problem, usually. So they prescribe a medicine for you. And like she prescribed that medicine for me, and it just dealt with the symptoms. It just dealt with the pain. It did allow me to do some work. But the symptoms were a result of the stress I had been under for 6-7 years. It eventually got to me. I guess it weakened my immune system, and I got sick, and it caused this reactive arthritis. But long story short, I ended up letting all that go, and I left the situation, and guess what? Eventually, the swelling went away. I didn't need the medicine anymore, and I was able to get off of it, which was difficult because that stuff is addicting. And I was okay. Now, had I followed the doctor's advice, I would, who knows, if I were still living, I would still be on that stuff. Because they're like, I heard someone say it the other day, they're medicinalists. They're taught medicine. I don't know how much they're really taught health, how to maintain health. But back to my original start of this video, did you ever stop to think that if you have a chemical imbalance or you're having problems with some physical organ in your body, that it possibly could have something to do with what you're putting into your body? And in that respect, what kind of food are you eating? What kind of chemicals are in the food that you're eating? What kind of nutrients are in the food that you're eating? What kind of vitamins, minerals? Now, most food today is processed, and it is difficult to find food that is not chemicalized. That's what I say. Okay, and besides the food, what kind of information, what kind of news media? What are you allowing into your mind? What are you thinking about most of the day? What is your thought processes? Are you full of resentment, fear, anger, guilt, shame? These things create in your body, in your mind, an imbalance in themselves, because you're not made to operate with these things constantly running through your mind. And when was the last time you went to a doctor when he asked you if you were angry at anyone or if you were stressed out? They might ask you if you're stressed out. I've been to the doctor many times in my life. Most people have my age. I'm 63. I don't take any medications. And I have kids, a lot of kids, and I've taken them to the doctors. They never ask. I mean, I piss them off because I say, well, once they go through all their, how you feeling, this and that, I say, did you ask her what she's eating? Did you ask her how she's sleeping? This was my daughter, the last one I took. Their sleeping habits are irregular. Their eating habits are fast food, soda, all these things that kids eat a lot of nowadays. They don't ask that. They just ask about the symptoms. That would be like taking your car to a mechanic, and of course they just assume you're putting good gasoline and good oil in the car. Because guess what? Almost everybody does. And yet, they'll go to McDonald's. I drove by there yesterday, and we got double lines at McDonald's now since the COVID, all right? And they're backed out to the highway. And doesn't everybody know, or is it just me? Now, I know you guys know that food, the nutritional value in that food is lacking, to say the least. But yet people eat that stuff daily, sometimes more than once a day. And then they wonder why they don't feel good. To me, it's obvious. But yet, maybe it's marketing, maybe it's our culture. And then what do we have here now too? 75% of our population, 75% of our population, check it on Google, is overweight or obese. The average weight of the American 20-year-old woman is 170.5 pounds. Do you think possibly that this might have something to do with why you have a chemical imbalance, or why, not you, but why people have a chemical imbalance? They don't feel well, they're having health problems. And back to what I said, when you go to the doctor, how many, you guys put it in the comment section, how many of you have ever been to a doctor where he spent more than 5 or 10 minutes with you asking you about your life, how your life's going? Do you have a good relationship with your wife? Do you have a good relationship with your children, with your parents? I think it was Louise Hay said, instead of asking people what's wrong with you, we should ask people, who's wrong with you? Do you think you can feel well and be optimal if you're walking around with resentment in your mind, in your head, between your ears, all day long? Look at most people, they're having conversations. You can see them sometimes actually move their lips. They're having conversations with themselves, and usually these conversations aren't happy conversations. They're arguing with their boss, their children, their wife, their friend, over and over and over again. And they go through the day doing these things, resenting people, being angry, or being afraid or ashamed. All these things cause our body to function in a certain way. And you can guess, maybe it doesn't cause your body to function in a good way. I had an old mentor. He told me once, he said, resentment eats up the container it's stored in. You are that container. I am that container. The problem with resentment is sometimes it disguises itself. And one of the disguises it's used is justification. Now, I'm sure most of us, I've done this, have complained about the president or past presidents or who we think the president is going to be. And we think that's okay. But that's gossip the same as any other gossip. We don't really know anything about any of them. And I'm not talking about the current president, whoever. I'm not going to get into political things here. I have my choices, of course, and you do too. But for us to talk about either side is really to talk about something we know nothing about. What do we know? We know what the media feeds us, what they want us to think. Media is constantly programming you. And I'll guarantee you it's not programming you to be courageous, to feel great, to believe everything's going to be okay. They want to keep you in a constant state of fear and anticipation of what's going to happen next. Because guess who's got the answer to what's going to happen next? They do. Or at least they want you to think they do. And this will keep you in a constant state of tension. I don't watch the news. I would tell you I don't look at social media, but once in a while those clickbaits will get me and I'll look at them, and usually I regret it. I don't need to know. There's nothing I can do about it. And if it's going to affect me in a negative way, why do I need to listen to it? And even if I'm listening to the people that I like, some of the creators I like, they want views and they give it to you according to their slant with their biased opinion. And we all have a biased opinion. I mean, think about it. I have an opinion of my children, and someone else may have an opinion of my children, and they don't like my children. Same children, different perception. And of course, my opinion of my children may be better than someone else's opinion of my children. So, and it's the same with politicians, police, officials, different cultures of people, different races of people. We all have some bias within us, and we have to be honest and realize that we do. Now, you can recognize that and logically overcome that. You don't have to act on it, and you certainly don't have to dislike a group of people because maybe you had a bad experience with certain ones. And I've done that too. When I was younger, I grew up in a very prejudiced household, and I was afraid of different cultures. But as I grew older, I realized as I got to mixing with these different people, they were the same as me. They had the same fears, desires, thoughts, everything. There was nothing different about them. It was ignorance and fear that kept my prejudice alive. So we need to remember that whatever we have going on in our heads, whatever we put into our mouths, all these things contribute to our optimal health. It's not just the food you eat, it's the food you allow into your brain. What are you eating mentally? What are you eating physically? How are you taking care of yourself? Are you exercising? Does the doctor ask you, are you exercising? I've never heard that either. I went to the doctor one time, and I have a very low heart rate beat because I meditate, I exercise, I've always maintained my physical fitness and done the best I can to maintain my mental fitness, although that is actually harder than maintaining my physical fitness. I can make myself work out. Sometimes I have difficulty with my thoughts, but that's something we all need to master. He who conquers himself is greater than he who conquers a city. So all these things we need to keep in mind for optimal health. I want you guys to feel great. I feel great most of the time unless I get some of that stinking thinking. And occasionally I get that. But if you become aware of that and aware of what your thoughts create in your body, then you can be on the lookout for things that you don't want to think. The same as you can be on the lookout for things you don't want to eat. How do you think you're going to feel if you go out and eat cake all day? I love cake. I love sweets. But how are you going to feel, and how am I going to feel if I eat too much of that? Nothing wrong with a piece of cake or a candy bar once in a while. Moderation in everything. Nothing wrong with sex. Nothing wrong with, exercise and having a good time. All these things are fine in moderation. But if we overdo any of it, it's going to have an effect on you physically and mentally. So just be aware of what you're eating and what you're thinking, and learn how to control both of these things, because you do have a choice, and you can have a wonderful life if you just be aware and be wise with what you eat and what you allow into your mind, how you take care of yourself. All right, that's all I have time for today. Share this with a friend if you think it will be of value to them. Hit that like button and subscribe. Have a great day.